UPS. To learn how UPS can put the power of logistics to work for you, visit thenewlogistics.com. To be a part of the show, call 855-FLOOD-44. That's 855-356-6344. Now, let's go live to Brother Jimmy's in New Brunswick. Alongside Coach Flood, here's the voice of the Scarlet Knights, Chris Carlin.
Another season of Rutgers football is upon us. Welcome, everybody, to the Kyle Flood Show here at Brother Jimmy's in downtown New Brunswick, alongside Eric LeGrand and the head coach of the Scarlet Knights, Kyle Flood. I'm Chris Carlin. We got a great crowd for our opener here tonight at Brother Jimmy's. Going to be a fantastic year as Rutgers prepares to open up the 2014 campaign on the West Coast for the second straight year this coming Thursday night in Seattle, Washington, against the Washington State Cougars. Coach, great to see you again. Training camp is complete. You're in game week. How are you?
I'm doing great. It's great to be back here at Brother Jimmy's. It's great to be hanging out with Eric LeGrand again. And if anybody follows him on social media, they know it. This is not a tough guy. This is a tough guy to get a couple minutes with, because he's got a full schedule now, Coach. And just days away, from the opening game, an opportunity for us to go back to the West Coast and do it just a little bit better against a style of offense that we're really anxious to play some defense against.
Do you think it helps going back to the West Coast as you went there last year? How do you adjust as a team now to the time difference?
Well, the result last year wasn't what we wanted. We came up a little bit short out there against Fresno State, but we did feel like the trip was a good trip in terms of the operation. We felt like the players played with energy. They felt good at the end of the game. We didn't think the trip was a factor, so we're going to use pretty much the same template as we go out there. We're going to go out there 2 days early. The first night you get them out there, you keep them up as late as possible. You let them sleep in a little bit the next day to get their clocks acclimated, and we'll have a good workout over at the Seahawks facility, and then we'll get ready to go as we get closer to game day.
We have a lot of ways for you to be a part of the program tonight, and we encourage you to do so. First of all, you can give us a call at 855-FLOOD-44. That's 855-356-6344. You can tweet us your questions at @RFootball. We'll get them on the air. And if you're in attendance here at Brother Jimmy's tonight, our friend Jimmy Gill right over here is waiting for your questions. You come right up. You will get on the microphone, and we will get your question right to Coach Flood. We are live on ScarletKnights.com on RVision in HD this year. Outstanding.
I'm excited about HD because I feel like with my Go Scarlet shirt on here, it'll look much better in HD, that's for sure.
I'm not sure how I feel looking at myself right in front of me right now, Coach.
Well, we want you to be involved, as we said, during the program tonight, so please get your questions in for the coach because we've got a lot of ground to cover. And let's start with training camp and the last 5-6 weeks as you've been preparing, really the last several months since you've been preparing at the end of last year. Take us through training camp in particular, coming out of the spring, the questions that you wanted to get answered. Where do you feel like this football team is?
I feel like we're in a good place, and Eric knows this. When you go to a bowl game, the next season really begins the day after the game. You clap the seniors out, and you get to work because it's a new team, and it's a team that will always have its own identity. Each year has its own personality and its own identity, and not to go through the entire offseason, but I felt like we had a good winter. I felt like we had a good spring practice, and I felt like we had a good summer. And all those things give you a chance to have a great training camp, because the most important time you spend as a football team is that time you spend on the field actually doing what you do in the game of football. And this training camp, I think, has answered some questions. I'm excited about the way Gary Nova's playing. The most important decision any head coach makes is who are you going to hand the ball to as your starting quarterback. And I think Gary's improved on the things we wanted to improve on. He's always been able to make the throws. I think he's got a great relationship right now with Ralph Friedgen. That's been exciting for me to watch that grow, because that relationship between the quarterback and the coordinator is critical, that they're on the same page constantly. And I know he's excited to get going this season and show everybody what he can do at a high level on a consistent basis.
And how is it when you plan out a training camp? Is it about how the personality of the team is? Because as you just said, each team is different each year. Is that what you try to focus on when you go to training camp, or is it kind of the same method you have each year and what you want to pretty much get into these young guys' heads right away from the beginning?
There are certain things every year that are going to be the same, and when I say that, I mean, training camp has to prepare your team for the opening game end the season. It can't be just focused on the opening game because you're getting ready for a 12-game season. And there are certain challenges we'll go through throughout the year, defending the air raid offense in game one, and then defending gun run as we go through the year, then defending an option attack at Navy at some point during the season, and another pass-oriented offense at Indiana later in the season. So you got to build your foundation in training camp. But then there's other parts of it, and that's determined by really what kind of team you have. There are certain drills you do in training camp because you might be a little bit younger at a particular position or you're trying to improve a particular position. And there might be certain things you might do at night just based on the personality of the team. I will say that this team is as close as any team I've been a part of over the last 20 years. They really love being around each other. They really love playing football together, and I think that's going to come out when we open up Thursday night. Let's
not waste any time. Get our first question from our crowd here in Brother Jimmy's. Sir, what's your name? Where are you from?
Chad James, North Brunswick.
Good to see you, Chad.
Good to see you as well. Just wanted to say we're all excited about the season and looking forward to seeing you guys doing big things in the Big Ten. The question I have is about there's two big questions before the year started, was the play of quarterback and the play of the secondary. I feel good about Gary Nova based on what you said and what you've seen. The question I have is about the secondary. It seems to be a big concern going into the season, especially against this game. The question I have is the defense hasn't changed, right? Same scheme and everything. But the question I have is about the technique as far as giving that 8-10-yard cushions between the corners and the receivers. And last year it seemed like a lot of the quarterbacks were throwing underneath passes, and they were getting like 7-8 yards at a clip. And they didn't allow a lot of big plays, but basically getting a lot of first downs, and that led to the year you had last year. The question I have is, do you feel this year the corners you have can play press coverage so that you can give the line time to get to the quarterback and disrupt the routes of the receivers? Do you feel better about this year's team as far as the corners you have can play that type of coverage?
I think the important thing is that you don't play the same way all the time. I think you want to keep the quarterback off balance as best you can, and that means sometimes you're going to be off. That means sometimes you're going to be pressed. Sometimes you're going to show them a pressed look and be off. Sometimes you want to be off, and on the snap of the ball you want to roll up. So I think if you can do that, and I think we can, I think that gives you a chance to keep that quarterback off balance just a little bit, and then sometimes take him from his first read to his second read and give the rush a chance to get there. That's when your rush is going to get there. I love the people that we have in that secondary. I think the young players we had last year, being a year older, having the experiences they have, is only going to make them better. And there's no better way to learn how to play than to play. And for us last year, it wasn't always pretty. We looked young at times, but now we're not as young. We're a year older. And I think also we've got some different people back there as well. I think DeLon Stevenson has had an excellent offseason. I'm excited to see him playing the games. I think adding Justin Goodwin to that mix of corners has made us better. I felt Justin was one of the better football players on our team. We needed to put him in a position where he could be on the field more and have a greater impact. So I'm excited to see Justin Goodwin out there playing corner. So I think it's a combination of what you said, keeping the quarterback off balance, and then playing better, physically playing better, which I think we'll do.
Thanks.
Well, we're going to get into some of the specifics as the night goes along and some of the matchups you have and certainly some of the changes. He's a guy that we definitely want to talk about, but you talked, the word scheme came up there. You've got two new coordinators on both sides of the ball. You mentioned Coach Friedgen already, and also Joe Rossi, who was the defensive coordinator for the bowl game against Notre Dame. Tell me about what both of these guys bring and the impact that you've already seen them have.
Yeah, I'll start with Ralph, and I think Ralph's career has been very much talked about since he returned to college football, and I think people know at this point he was somebody that I tried to reach out to 2 years ago, and the timing just wasn't right. But Ralph is one of the more prolific offensive coordinators of the last quarter century in college and professional football. He is somebody that, as I travel around in coaching circles, is as respected and revered as anybody in this business, and it really has been an enjoyment for me to watch him work. And I would tell you, the most impressive thing I think he's done is the strength of the relationships he's created in a very short amount of time. He has spent an exceptional amount of time one-on-one with players in his office, building those relationships. Every position on offense, not just the quarterbacks. And from a scheme standpoint, there is no defense that we'll see this year or encounter that he hasn't coached against, that he doesn't have the answers for, and that he hasn't coached the players at a very high level to execute against. So I think all those things are going to benefit us, and I think the players have a lot of confidence in him when he's in front of the room because of that. And when you talk about Joe, it's a little bit of a different situation because Joe is at the beginning stages of his career as a defensive coordinator. He has done it at one other school. But Joe has really grown up in this defense, in this style of defense. And I felt after taking some time to make the decision that he was the right guy, that he was the perfect guy for the job, and that he was somebody that the players would respond to. And I see that on a day-in and day-out basis. I see the players playing with an aggressiveness and an energy that I really like. And I think that all comes from Joe's personality.
And as we're talking about coaching, how does Coach Frazier play into the mix of helping Joe Rossi on the defensive side, since Coach Frazier has been here for so many years before in the previous teams and helping that defense out? So does he play any role in those coaches' meetings by helping Joe Rossi teach him the little things that he's learning in his young career, as you said?
Yeah, I think Bob plays a big role in that. I think you're right. And Bob has been one of the authors crafting this defense over the years and kind of how it's evolved. And to have him as our special teams coordinator is a great asset. But to have him in the room as the linebacker coach working with Joe Rossi and the defensive staff is a tremendous bonus to the entire team, not just the guys on defense, because Bob has coached this defense at the college level. He's coached this defense in the NFL, and he's coached it against all the styles of offense that we're going to see this year.
We will get more of your calls in, or certainly more of your questions in as well on Twitter @RFootball. Our telephone number, 855-FLOOD-44. That's 855-356-6344. Also in person here at Brother Jimmy's. You have a question for the coach, come on up front. We've got a microphone for you to get your question in. When we come back, we will talk about a new era in Rutgers athletics, and it begins with football as the Scarlet Knights begin competing in the Big Ten Conference this fall for the first time. We'll step aside live from Brother Jimmy's on Easton Avenue in New Brunswick. This is the Kyle Flood Show.
We're about living in the moment.
You know, that moment when you open a Pepsi and hear the music.
We're the doers, the shakers, the tastemakers.
The ones who dance to their own beat.
The ones who stay cool when things heat up.
Whether the party is big or small.
We're the ones who never want it to end.
The ones who can't stop.
And never will.
The beat starts at Pepsi.com. Pepsi. Live for now.
This is the Rutgers IMG Sports Network.
Looking for the best trained in the electrical business? Look no further. Our members of the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, Local Union 456, go through a 5-year nationally recognized apprenticeship program along with OSHA safety certifications, producing the best trained and most up-to-date electricians in the area. Fiber optics, high voltage, lighting retrofits, solar energy, healthcare facilities, school construction, data centers. We do it all. We are also proud to be one of the first building trades locals to be recognized with a drug-free workplace program. We at Local Union 456 are like Coach Flood and the Scarlet Knights, trained and proven to get the job done.
Oh, what up, Rutgers? Hey, guess what? I bet you didn't know you're about to have 3 different kinds of barbecue sauce all over that sweet, sticky mug of yours. Also, bet you didn't know, down south in North Carolina, we can actually make some of the best barbecue you've ever had in your ding-dong life. So come on down to Brother Jimmy's Barbecue and put some South in your mouth. Brother Jimmy's Barbecue, located at 5 Easton Avenue, New Brunswick, New Jersey. Or check us out at brotherjimmys.com. See y'all real soon.
Hey, New Jersey football fans, are you ready for a better way to do car insurance? Well, look for Plymouth Rock Assurance at an upcoming Rutgers game and ask us about great rates, taxi reimbursement, and unparalleled service from local folks right here in Jersey. Certain limitations apply. Welcome back. This is the Kyle Flood Show on the Rutgers IMG Sports Network and on ScarletKnights.com. Chris Carlin, Eric LeGrand, and the head coach of the Scarlet Knights, Kyle Flood. And, Coach, it's been, 18 months since the official announcement, almost 2 years now, officially, I should say. But you're here. You're in the Big Ten Conference. Tell me about the differences that you've seen since officially becoming a member back on July 1st.
I think the first thing that you have to address when you talk about the Rutgers being in the Big Ten is it's a seat at the table of the premier academic athletic conference in the nation. And a time and a place where college football was a little bit like musical chairs and there wasn't necessarily a chair for everybody, to have a seat at that table I think is extremely important for Rutgers as we go forward with our football program. And I think the relationship is a very solid relationship. It's a very real relationship that works in both ways. I think the Big Ten is good for Rutgers, and I think Rutgers is great for the Big Ten. To take the birthplace of college football and the number one media market in the world with the success we've had in our program over the last 9 years and move it into the Big Ten is only good for that conference and will only strengthen that conference as we go forward. I think we've felt the effects in recruiting, and I think we've felt the effects academically as a university as well.
And I asked this last year, but now that we're here, how hard is it to keep the guys focused on not playing the Big Ten games? If you start off the first 2 games, you have Washington State and then Howard. How do you keep them on that one-track mind of being 1-0?
I think if we were playing a different opponent, it might be a bigger issue. But I think the fact that we're playing against a team like Washington State with a coach as accomplished as Mike Leach is and a style of offense that we weren't happy with the way we defended it last year, I think that's got everybody's attention. And I think we've got excellent focus on this first one.
Got another question from a gentleman here in the crowd. Sir, what's your name and where are you from?
Chris from Middlesex.
Hey, Chris.
It's a good town, Chris.
It's a great town. Since the end of last year and through training camp, which unit, be it positional unit or overall defense or offense or special teams, have you seen the greatest improvement from?
Great question.
That's a good question. I think I've seen improvement in every group. I think some of the groups that were strong in terms of depth are even stronger now, like our defensive line. I think the group that really was strengthened not both by improvement but by recruiting is that running back room. To have Paul James healthy again, to have Desmond Peoples have the kind of spring that he had, a really dynamic player, and then to add Josh Hicks and Robert Martin to that group, it's really what allowed us to make the move with Justin Goodwin to defense. Without those other guys being available, I don't know if we would be able to do that. So I think if you're looking at overall improvement in the room, that running back room might be the one I'd say.
Thanks, Coach.
The name has come up a couple of times, so I'm interested in the answer with Justin. You were talking about getting him on the field more. He's such a good football player. You made the move last year with Ruhan Peel a little bit. So what made Justin the right guy to move into that position when you had some injuries at corner?
We can start with the tangible. Very athletic, runs well, excellent ball skills, a tremendous natural athlete, that's for sure. So that the fact that he's 5'11 and a half, 6 foot tall, 200 pounds, he's got the right body type to really play that position at a high level. But probably the more important aspect of that switch was his selflessness, because he's somebody who has been carrying the ball since he started playing football and has been the focal point of almost every offense he's ever been a part of. 3 years in high school, 3 undefeated teams, 3 state championships. He's a very accomplished football player. And when I sat him down, I said, Justin, I don't want you to think this is because I'm not happy with the way you're playing on offense, because I'm extremely happy. You're playing at a high level. But I think you'll play more if we move you over to corner. And he said, Coach, I will do whatever is best for the team. And that attitude is really probably more important than anything else, because he went over there with a great attitude, and he's gotten better and better as training camp has gone on.
And how much confidence does that give you as a coach to make a move like that, as he was playing really good at running back, and he was pretty much the number 2 guy. So to be able to switch over, how much confidence in the offense does that give you?
Yeah, I think without the kind of spring Desmond Peoples had, and without the beginning of the training camp that Josh and Robert had, and even the security of having a guy like Michael Burton who can carry the ball, it would have been a much tougher move to make. I remember an unselfish guy. There was a number 52 on our team who made the move to fullback for us many years ago.
I came over to the bright side for a little bit.
It was a brief stint, but it was nice to have him over there. What number did you wear on offense, Eric?
46.
That's a good one.
The Michael Burton number.
That's a good one.
Hey.
And you shifted back and forth a little bit over the course of 3 or 4 weeks.
Yeah, I was at fullback back to defensive end, back to nose guard, but learning all the positions made you learn the game a lot faster as a freshman.
Coach, our first question from Twitter comes in from our friend GQ Zoolander.
That's a name right
That
there.
is a name. I think he checked in with us a couple times last year. Will Coach RVision call plays from the sideline or the booth this year?
How do we know GQ Zoolander is not Latin for Mike Leach? How do we make sure this is not
GQ
somebody,
Zoolander is Latin. I should have taken Latin.
somebody trying to gather some information on us without us knowing here? Coach RVision will be up in the box. He's going to call the plays from up top.
What is the difference for a coach in particular? I know some guys like to be on the sideline. When you were an assistant, which did you prefer? What did you like about it? And from a play caller perspective for him, I imagine it's also about seeing what's going on.
It is, and most of the play callers that I've worked with over the years have wanted to be in the box. So they can really have a great view of all 22 players on the field and see what's going on. And I think in between series, there's more of a calmness and more of a working environment in the box than there is on the sideline. So most of the play callers on offense that I've worked with have wanted to be in the box. Most of the play callers I've worked with on defense have wanted to be on the field. And I don't know that I have an explanation for that. And I do think it's just personal comfort level and what they want. And Joe Rossi is going to be down on the field with us. And that's where he wants to be. So that's where he'll be.
And I remember when I was playing, seeing you on the total opposite side of the field on where the ball actually was. How easy is it to see it from back there then if you're watching the O-line and also the defense?
That's exactly right. I would always try to stay about 20 to 25 yards behind the ball when possible so that I could really have almost an end zone view of what was going on out there because when the players are out there, you can scream from the sideline, but they're not really going to hear much of what you're saying. It's really gathering the information and then using it when you get to the sideline.
First call tonight comes from Joe. He is down in Florida. Joe, you're on the Kyle Flood Show. How are you?
Oh, pretty good. How you doing, Coach?
How you doing? Doing great, Joe. Thanks for calling in.
Yeah, there's been a lot of talk in the media about the past happy Washington State. And, I'm just wondering what you're going to do about that as far as that situation.
Well, I'm not sure we could do anything about them passing the ball because that's Mike Leach's decision and that's his style of offense and there's no doubt that they're going to throw it 50 to 70 times depending on how the game goes. That is what that's what they do and we're game planning for that and they get rid of the ball extremely quickly. They do a great job of catching the snap and delivering the ball and that's their version of a run game. Those quick-hitting passes are their runs. Their screens are their runs. So instead of lining up and running the ball, that's kind of how they distribute it and try to make you defend the entire width of the field.
Are they similar to – are they more similar to one of the opponents from last year who ran that same kind of offense, at least from the fans' perspective of either Fresno or SMU? Can you compare them to any of those?
I think they are, from a system perspective, they are most similar to Houston.
Okay.
That would be the system because Houston is a version of the air raid offense, and Mike Leach is the author of the air raid offense. So Houston's probably a derivative of what Mike does.
Mike spent a long time, 10 seasons at Texas Tech, went to 10 consecutive bowl games, and got Washington State back into a bowl game last year at 6-6. They lost in the New Mexico Bowl to Colorado State, but he's got, you talk about prolific quarterbacks. He has one in Connor Halliday. Threw for almost 5,000 yards last year, 34 touchdowns, 22 interceptions. And I saw one stat 2 or 3 times in the offseason, and I thought I was reading something wrong, and I went back and looked at it again. Each time. One game last year, and it escapes me which one, had 89 pass attempts in the game. 89 pass attempts in a game, which was a school record. I'm not sure that it was an NCAA record.
It doesn't shock me. It's what they believe in, and they believe in what they do as strongly as Coach Niatamaolo, I believe that's how you say it.
Yes.
Working on, at Navy believes in what they do, and they have very strong convictions about what they do on offense. And again, to them, it's they don't define themselves by running the football. They define themselves about throwing the football and spreading you out and winning one-on-ones in space. And I don't know if I've ever coached against a team that brings back 5 receivers that all come back having caught over more than 400 yards in receiving the year before. I don't know that I've ever seen that. So it's not about any one player they're throwing it to. They are going to make you defend the whole field.
And as Chris brings up a stat like that, how do you have, pick a rotation on a defense? Because you can't leave the same guys out there for 89 pass plays. How is it going through who's going to be the guys coming in and they go to a hurry-up offense. How do you get those guys in and out so fast?
You're right. And you know this firsthand. It's probably the most taxing thing on a football field is a defensive lineman rushing the passer. It's as taxing as anything else you do on the field. And we're going to play 8, 9, 10 defensive linemen, and we're going to roll them in there and use whatever opportunities present themselves to make sure we've got fresh guys in the game.
Another Twitter question, and it comes in from super fan Scott Logan. Coach, where did the idea for Club Ice come from? For those who are unfamiliar, you had a little fun when your team had some two-a-days during this training camp by coming up with the idea for Club Ice.
I think the better question is, how are we having our first radio show and Scott Logan is not here?
Did he just email it in?
Is he tweeting it in from somewhere else in the restaurant?
I have not seen him, but that's a great question because he is usually here every night. Maybe school's not back in yet, so maybe that's part of it. But I'm sure that we will see him probably next week for the Howard game. But he's chiming in either way.
Well, I appreciate Scott listening in with us tonight. Shout out to the Riot Squad.
Yep.
They do an awesome job of bringing the school spirit to our football games and to a lot of events on campus because everyone I go to, I see them there. Club Ice was just our way to try to have a little bit of fun sitting in the ice tubs after a two-a-day at night. And it started out as just music. And then it went from music to some lighting. And then it went from music to some lighting. And then all of a sudden there were glow sticks. And then the fire extinguishers showed up. And then finally, the last time we did it, there was a sprinkler system involved. So, but I have to give the credit really to Will Gilkison and our operations staff and Jeremy Cole, Mike Tufo, and our strength staff. They're the ones who really came up with all the ideas, and they took upon themselves the challenge of doing it better the second time. And I was impressed because I didn't think they could top the first one.
I know you invited me to come back if you wanted me to come to one of these challenges, and
anytime.
I'm going to decline every one. I did the ALS one and accepted that, but the ice bucket, ice tubs, I think I'm done with.
I think that'd be good for you. You come back.
Well, maybe it might shock the spinal cord, maybe.
Well, you got in there yourself, did you not?
I did. Both times I went in there and I sat in there, and your legs feel better afterwards, but I can't tell you it's very comfortable while you're in there.
Not at all.
We'll take another timeout. We've got a lot to get to. We'll talk about the matchup with Washington State, some of the impact players for Rutgers on both sides of the ball coming up as well. Be a part of the show by giving us a call at 855-FLOOD-44. That's 855-356-6344. Or tweet us your questions at @OurFootball. And if you're in attendance here at Brother Jimmy's, we got a great crowd here. Come on up, ask the coach your question. We'll get you in. Rutgers and Washington State this coming Thursday night. The opener as Rutgers enters the Big Ten Conference, and they start on the West Coast for the second consecutive year. 10:05 kickoff on Fox Sports 1. Stay with us live from Brother Jimmy's on Easton Avenue in New Brunswick. This is the Kyle Flood Show.
The chalkboard. Sweeps, screens. Every play is drawn up and studied. When you can visualize a play, you can execute a play. The same is true in business. The more visibility you have in your supply chain, the better your business performs. That's why UPS lets you track what comes in and what goes out. Logistics is our game. See how we can help yours at thenewlogistics.com. UPS, official logistics partner of the NCAA.
AT&T's best ever pricing for individuals and families lets you stay connected with the nation's most reliable 4G LTE network. It's easy. Just find the service plan that fits you best, including options up to 10 lines, so you can text, call, and download pretty much everywhere you go. AT&T, mobilizing your world.
AT&T is a proud partner of Rutgers Athletics.
Reliability claim based on nationwide carriers 4G LTE. 4G LTE not available everywhere.
This is the Rutgers IMG Sports Network.
When you park with the parking spot, our friendly drivers get you from trunk to airport terminal faster. And the time you save parking with us, you can use to daydream about the road trip and leading a stadium of screaming fans in the biggest wave ever. Make a free reservation now at theparkingspot.com, and with the money you save, you'll be able to afford face paint remover. Free reservations now at theparkingspot.com. The Parking Spot, proud sponsor of Rutgers Athletics. We have airport parking covered.
You know where to tune in for the game, but do you know how to bring the game home to you? When it comes to commemorating the experience, imgproducts.net has you covered. imgproducts.net is the place to go for official programs and yearbooks from NCAA championships, conference tournaments, and many of the nation's top universities. Relive games and championships for years to come with quality programs containing stats, behind-the-scenes stories, history, and much, much more. imgproducts.net. We've got you covered.
We are back at Brother Jimmy's in downtown New Brunswick on Easton Avenue for the first Kyle Flood Show of 2014. Chris Carlin, Eric LeGrand, and the coach, Kyle Flood. Tweet us your questions. Give us a call, 855-FLOOD-44. We are on WCTC AM 1450 in New Brunswick, and, of course, on ScarletKnights.com on RVision. And I want to give a quick plug about RVision to a guy that does an awful lot with RVision, a friend named John Newman, who has helped Jason Baum with this program quite a bit. And the RVision that has really worked the last couple of years has been fantastic, the way they have continued to grow that program on ScarletKnights.com. This year, as we mentioned, it is in HD. John has put together a starter, a Kickstarter account, if you will, for lack of a better term, to help raise money for RVision. They're at $23,000. They're hoping to raise $30,000 by opening night. And you can help out by visiting rvisionstarter.tumblr.com. rvisionstarter.tumblr.com. And I think it's such a testament. You get an opportunity to see not only all the coverage of Rutgers football, there are daily reports on RVision, which is fantastic, but also all the other athletics at Rutgers that you may not get an opportunity to see. They really do a fantastic job on the site, Coach.
They do a phenomenal job, and it's an awesome vehicle for our football program to really spread the gospel of Rutgers football. From practice reports, Taryn Hatcher, Tom Lucci, to player interviews, things you can't see anywhere else. You can see them on RVision, and Jason does an excellent job of putting all that stuff together for that.
I'm always checking out RVision, especially when I can't make it to practice. I always can go on there and follow up on what happened, the injury report, everything. It's been tremendous. And I retweeted it for John Newman, too, but I think last week, but I'm going to get him again tonight.
Well, as we said, they're not too far away from their goal. It's rvisionstarter.tumblr.com, rvisionstarter.tumblr.com. For more information, you can follow John Newman on Twitter. Trust me, you'll know it's him because he's talking about Rutgers all the time. All right, Coach, let's get into some of your impact players on offense. You talked about Gary and the anxiousness on his part to get back out there and to prove the kind of player that he can be, the relationship with Coach Friedgen. Tell me about Gary's training camp, what you noticed the most from him.
I think, what I've seen in Gary this year is an ability to go out on the field and coach all the other 10 players that are on the field as he's working. And that's the 400-level course in being a great quarterback. That's really what that is. That means that you've got a tremendous command of what your job is to the point where now that's almost in your subconscious. And now you're out there making sure everybody else is doing what they need to do as well. You're directing traffic. You're being a great communicator in the huddle, at the line of scrimmage. All the things we wanted to see, we're starting to see them.
And as you talk about Gary Nova, what about his connection all the way from high school, Leonte Carew? How is it good having him back, being healthy and getting ready for a year? I believe I saw him tweet or put up something that he hasn't played in a long time. He's very anxious to get out there on Wednesday.
Yeah, Leonte wasn't available to us toward the end of the season, and he's an excellent competitor now. He's as competitive as a guy as I've ever been around. He's as strong to the football as any receiver we've had, and that's a hell of a list now when you start thinking about some of the guys that have come through our program playing wide receiver, from Kenny Britt to Mohamed Sanu to Mark Harrison and Taekwon Underwood and Timmy Wright and Brandon Coleman. So there have been quite a few of them. Sean Tucker, we'll mention Tuck too. We'll throw a Tuck right in there.
Old school.
But he is really strong to the football. I think Leonte's had an excellent training camp, and he is certainly somebody that people are going to have to contend with as we go out there.
Coach, how about your running backs? You mentioned shifting Justin Goodwin over to defense. Paul James dealt with his share of injuries last year, but we've also seen the explosive side of his game. Tell us a little bit about what you've seen from Paul, and not just the new scarlet hair that he came back with after the weekend?
You know, I saw the hair, and I saw it before practice, and I just needed to take it in for a couple minutes. And then I talked to him in the stretch lines. I said, you know what, Paul? I said, I've been looking at this hair now for a couple. I said, I like it. I could see myself with it at some point, but I really did like it.
You're setting yourself up for some sort of bet with the players when you say something like that. You realize that.
I did like it. It was almost a little bit like my hair, just red.
Take mine on, Coach.
I thought he did a good job with it. But Paul is a fun player to be around when he's healthy. And he's 100% healthy right now. I can't wait to see him out there Thursday night and to have Desmond Peoples to compliment him. And Desmond's going to play very early in that game. And you know, Desmond has earned the right to touch the football in these games because he has gotten better and better since last spring.
And can we talk about the tight end position now and the impact of Tyler Croft and what he's going to have on the offense this year, along with some other new guys now?
You know, it's a good question because I got this question earlier today after practice about Tyler Croft, and I thought it was very insightful. I think what people have to remember is last year, Tyler Croft really at the beginning of the year wasn't somebody that people were defending. It was not somebody we were talking about. And when you had Brandon Coleman on one side, Leonte Crew on the other side, that created some one-on-one coverage for Tyler because people weren't as aware of what he was at that point. Now there's much more awareness of what Tyler can do in the game. And one of the games within the game is going to be to see how people are going to defend Leonte and Tyler, you know, when we get into the passing situations.
How about your offensive line? You've got 5 guys that have played an awful lot of football together. And as a former and still offensive line coach, some you get in the mix, obviously. Does that give you just a little extra comfort level knowing that these guys have spent the amount of time together that they have on the football field?
It's always exciting to bring back 5 offensive linemen that have started the kind of games that these guys have. 4 of them full-time starters, 1 of them a part-time starter or a half-year starter, and Taj Alexander. And the other thing to me that's exciting is to watch the development of a player like J.J. Denman, a player like Dorian Miller, and a player like Derek Nelson, because those would probably be the next 3 guys in the game at this point. And we've got some others that are coming on. Ryan Brody's coming on. Tariq Cole is coming on. So we've got some younger players that are coming on as well. But I think it's great to have 5 guys coming back. But that was a position we really needed to build some depth at. And I feel like from the spring to training camp, we've been able to do that.
When you look at those guys, when you say the next 3 guys up, you're always wanting to have that 6th, 7th guy you know it's going to be. So where do you find yourself as those guys continue to work their way up the depth chart?
Yeah, I don't think we'll have a true 6th man. I think if Brian Leone was healthy, he might have been that guy. But I don't think we'll have a true 6th man. But I think we'll have, you know, what we will have is J.J. Denman who's playing offensive tackle, Derek Nelson who's playing center, and Dorian Miller is playing guard. Probably the next guys in the game at this point.
And how do you have, I want to go back to now the wide receivers. Someone like Carlton Abadosi, how do you teach him how to complement Leonte Carew, but also use that body, use it as an advantage? You know, last year he looked a little bit young out there, but as he comes down with another year under his belt, how do you use his that length as an advantage for him now in this game, not in high school anymore?
You're right. It creates a matchup issue, and I think for those players, you know, a guy last year would have been a guy like Tyler Croft, but this year it's a guy like Carlton Abadosi, Andrew Terzilli, John Simmis. They're going to get one-on-one matchups because Leonte Cruz on the other side, because Tyler Croft is in the middle somewhere, and they have to take advantage of him. And the more they take advantage of him, the better our offense becomes.
All right, let's take another phone call. Gentleman has been waiting a few minutes. That is Brian, also down in Florida. Brian, you're on the Kyle Flood Show.
Gentlemen, how are we doing tonight?
Doing great, Brian.
Good.
Doing good. All right. Quick question for you, Coach. You a Mets fan being from Queens? I never heard you speak about baseball. Just a side note.
I am a huge baseball fan, and my older brother was actually a Met fan, and you're right, we grew up about 10 minutes from Shea Stadium. I grew up a Yankee fan. I did not root against the Mets, but in the Subway Series, I did have a Yankee shirt on.
All right. I guess I'll accept that for now.
Appreciate
that. My real question is regarding the quick pass game of Washington State. They like to dump it off pretty quickly. They're not really going down the field too much, it looks like. How can we get our defensive linemen either in towards the quarterback, or are we going to drop them off? I know you don't want to give too much away. I just remember George Johnson a few years ago. He was always good in dropping back and getting the backs out of the backfield and such.
Yeah, George was excellent. I think George had 2 interceptions in his career at Rutgers. You're very correct in what you said. They do a great job, and a fairly high percentage of their passes are thrown on what would be called a 3-step timing. and it's virtually impossible to get there unless you're completely unblocked to get to the quarterback when they do that. So it's going to be critical that when they throw those three-step passes that we tackle them. You know, the team I thought that did a great job last year against them was Stanford, and probably the best thing they did was tackle the receivers after the catch. There was very little yards after contact in that game, and I think if you look at the teams that defend them well, they tackle well, and that's going to be critical. We do that Thursday night.
And as Coach Shiano always used to say to us, Coach, with the smart swarm, and they're on scholarship too, how important is it to smart swarm with the defense to the ball?
Absolutely, and some of those short passes, if we set the edge correctly, there'll be a bunch of D-linemen pressing the hip towards that ball.
There you go.
All right, sir, we have another question from a gentleman here. Coach?
Hi, I'm Glenn from Hillsborough. Chris, Kyle, Eric,
good to see you all.
Glenn?
Great to be here tonight. Actually, Kyle, you were kind of leading into my question. You need to have, obviously, a somewhat effective pass rush as well as an effective running game to slow these people down. Is there anything in particular that you can share as far as your pass rush, what you're thinking of doing? You're not going to blitz every play, obviously, but just in general, any thoughts as far as that goes?
There's nothing I can share. It's all top secret.
Well, thanks for making me wait up here.
It's all top. Tune in at 10 o'clock on Thursday night Eastern, and you'll see it. No, I think the one thing I would say is, and I don't think this is any secret to anybody in football, you have to have a mix of what you do. And there's got to be some pressure involved. There's got to be some 4-man rush, some 3-man rush, some 5-man rushes, some 6-man rushes. And I think you got to mix them up. If you do the same thing every snap,
of course,
they're very well coached. They'll know how to attack it.
Yeah. Okay, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
We appreciate
Thanks
the
for
question.
coming tonight.
We've got more to do, more questions to get to. You can tweet us your questions at @RFootball or give us a call at 855-FLOOD-44. Live from Brother Jimmy's on Easton Avenue in New Brunswick, this is the Kyle Flood Show.
We're about living in the moment.
You know, that moment when you open a Pepsi and hear the music.
We're the doers, the shakers, the tastemakers.
The ones who dance to their own beat.
The ones who stay cool when things heat up.
Whether the party is big or small.
We're the ones who never want it to end.
The ones who can't stop.
And never will.
The beat starts at Pepsi.com. Pepsi. Live for now.
This is the Rutgers IMG Sports Network.
What's up, Rutgers? Y'all ready for some football? Brother Jimmy's in New Brunswick is your headquarters for Scarlet Knight football, as well as your home for the Jets, Giants, and all your favorite NFL teams. With over 30 HD TVs, we serve up all the NFL action on Sunday and Monday nights, with amazing food and drink specials all game long. So come on down to Brother Jimmy's and put some South in your mouth. For reservations and event information, visit us at BrotherJimmy's.com. Brother Jimmy's Barbecue, located at 5 Easton Avenue, New Brunswick, New Jersey. See y'all soon.
When you shop an electronics big box store, do you feel like cattle? When you ask a question, do the salespeople look dazed and confused? Thought so. When you need a digital camera, come in and visit Unique Photo, New Jersey's only camera and video superstore. For over 60 years, customers have counted on Unique for price, quality, dependability, and service. Call 1-800-631-0300. That's 1-800-631-0300. Or visit us online at uniquephoto.com. Uniquephoto.com.
Unique Photo, we're all about you.
Back at Brother Jimmy's, live on Easton Avenue in downtown New Brunswick. This is the Kyle Flood Show. Rutgers preparing for their season opener this coming Thursday night. Fox Sports 1, Tim Brando, Joel Klatt on the call. 10:05 kickoff. Rutgers facing Washington State at CenturyLink Field, the home of the Seattle Seahawks in Seattle, and they play one game a year at Washington State. Coach, let's get into a couple of these questions on Twitter. Marie on Twitter wants to know, Coach, how will the new rules i.e. where you can hit the quarterback, affect defense, do you see less sacks?
I don't know if I see less sacks. I see it as another way that really player safety is coming to the forefront in college football. And last year the rules about hits to the head were adopted, and I think they've done a good job of modifying those with replay to make sure we're getting that right, because it's a pretty severe penalty when that infraction is enforced. But the new rule this year, and this is if you understand this is how the rules work. Every 2 years they go through a rules review. So this is an off year, so they don't have a lot of dramatic rule changes. But this one they did implement, that you cannot hit the quarterback below, at the knee or below. And that's really the pro rule in terms of protecting the quarterback. So you essentially have to hit the quarterback from the thigh to the chest. And I think it's a good rule. Will that reduce the number of sacks? I don't think so. I think the players adapt pretty quickly to these things, and it'll just be a different style of tackle.
Now, let's clarify this for a second. The other one, too, for the fans who don't know, of course, we saw the targeting come into effect last year, and the automatic suspension or ejection from the game, and if it was in the second half, you'd be out for the first half of the next game, too. If it happens in the first half of the game, now, you can tell me if I'm wrong, the officials are allowed to look at a replay at halftime if they have ejected a player, and if they determine that if, in fact, it was not targeting, that player can come back and play in the second half. Is that correct?
It's correct, but that is only the case if they don't have the availability of replay in the first half.
Okay.
They should be able to review the play right away if they have replay. But if you were in a situation, for whatever reason, that the replay system went down, they could then review it at halftime and make an adjustment if they needed to. But they should review the play immediately, and if they feel that it was not a targeting situation, not only will the penalty be waived off, the ejection be waived off, but the 15-yard penalty will be waived off as well, and that was not the case last year.
And how hard is it teaching these defensive backs or even the linebackers when you have these crossing routes coming to you so fast? How do you teach them to hit on that chest to knee level? Sometimes, like a Wes Welker the other day, short guy came across the middle, and Schweringer from the Texans caught him with a shoulder right to the head. Is it hard teaching that technique to be able to tackle them, or what do you do in that situation?
I don't know if necessarily it's hard to teach, but I do think the speed of the game at times makes it hard for that reaction. And there's no doubt that there are going to be certain plays every year that are going to be legitimate penalties, and I don't know that there's any intent on the defender. It's just going to happen because of the speed of the game. But I also think that the players, as we go forward with these rules, they've gotten better and better. And we, for us last year, we didn't have one of those penalties enforced on us the entire season.
Let's flip over to the defensive side for a few moments and talk about some of the improvements, some of the newer players you're going to get an opportunity to see. And the defensive line, you have to feel pretty good about. You've got some real good depth. Fill me in on what we could potentially see. Could you see 8 to 9 guys out there at different times this year on the defensive line?
I don't think there's any doubt. I think you're going to see a minimum of 8 and probably a maximum of 10. And, in a game like this where we're going to defend a lot of passes, you'll probably see closer to 10 than to 8. So, we've got some talented D-line. It's a position of depth on our football team, and we're going to use it.
And how is Darius Hamilton guiding these guys? It's funny how we see him grow up right in front of our eyes. It seems like it's been so fast, but he's a leader. He's a veteran now. How does he teach these young guys now on pretty much how to control game day and leading up into a season? Yeah,
Darius got voted captain by his peers in his third year, and I think that's a special honor for a player who didn't redshirt. And you're right. And when a player plays early like Darius did as a true freshman, it seems like their careers go quickly. And now Darius enters his third year. He's one of our co-captains. I think the way he leads those players is really two different ways. He's a tremendous example because of how hard he practices in every period, whether it's an individual, a group, or a team period. He is 100 miles an hour all the time. But now he's taken his leadership to another level because I hear him in practice holding the other players at that position group and on defense accountable. And to me, that's what your true leaders do. They not only do it themselves, but they hold everybody else accountable to the standard.
We've talked about the secondary a little bit. How about your linebackers? You made a switch with Kevin Snyder now playing in the middle. And on the outside, you've got Steve Longa and Quentin Gauze. But you switched to Longa, who was playing in the middle last year when he was exceptionally productive. Is he going to be kind of in that Kasim Green mode of taking advantage of his athleticism on the outside?
Yeah, Steve made 123 tackles last year from the Mike position, and he closes on the ball at an elite level, very similar to how Kasim Green did, and we felt that he could be even more productive if we put him in Kasim's position at that will linebacker spot. And it really wasn't about us not being happy with the way Kevin played. We just thought that both players would be more productive if we made the switch, and that was something that when Bob Frazier came on and Joe Rossi became the coordinator, we sat down and said, all right, what's the best way to use the personnel we have? That was the decision we've made, and we've been happy with it so far.
And how amped up is Quentin Gosnell? I remember when he came on a recruiting visit and had to beat his dad in Madden. And I remember he had 21 in the first quarter. I remember it. After that, he said,
I didn't know there was a mercy rule in Madden.
Yeah, 21, coach. But we talk about his career now. Now him playing even bigger role. He's been a big role on special teams, and he stepped in at linebacker. Now he's the guy out there. How is that?
You're right. He is the guy, and he's earned it. And I think he started probably 4 or 5 games for us last year and did an excellent job. And Quentin is somebody who is really fun to coach. He's really the best, a great example of what a student athlete should be. He does a great job in the classroom. He's involved off the field. He does everything we need him to do in the weight room. He's involved in internships over the summer. He makes sure he makes time not only to work out but to do his internships. Quentin's a special guy and somebody that you have supreme trust in when you go out there on game day.
Let's take one more time out. We'll get another question in just a moment from one of our folks here in attendance. And get your last questions into the coach. We've got a few more minutes left as Rutgers prepares this week for Washington State on Thursday night. Live from Brother Jimmy's on Easton Avenue in New Brunswick, this is the Kyle Flood Show.
AT&T's best ever pricing for individuals and families lets you stay connected with the nation's most reliable 4G LTE network. It's easy. Just find the service plan that fits you best, including options up to 10 lines, so you can text, call, and download pretty much everywhere you go. AT&T, mobilizing your world.
AT&T is a proud partner of Rutgers Athletics.
Reliability claim based on nationwide carriers 4G LTE. 4G LTE not available everywhere.
Looking for a place to watch all of the Rutgers football action as they head into the Big Ten? Enjoy the games with fellow Scarlet Knights fans at these Rutgers Athletics official watch party locations. New York City's Brother Jimmy's Barbecue, Hoboken's Cadillac Cantina, Tom's River's McIntyre's Pub, New Brunswick's Mike's Courtside Sports Bar and Grill, and Quaker Steak and Lube's 3 locations in Edison, Brick, and Powhatan.
This is the Rutgers IMG Sports Network.
The chalkboard. Sweeps, screens. Every play is drawn up and studied. When you can visualize a play, you can execute a play. The same is true in business. The more visibility you have in your supply chain, the better your business performs. That's why UPS lets you track what comes in and what goes out. Logistics is our game. See how we can help yours at thenewlogistics.com. UPS, official logistics partner of the NCAA.
Do you live and breathe college sports? Wish you could listen to the games anywhere you drive? Well, you're in luck, because at SiriusXM, we bring you the biggest college football and basketball action live all season long. Plus, with exclusive in-depth analysis, shows from legendary coaches, and live reports on College Sports Nation, SiriusXM is your college sports heaven. Welcome to the world of satellite radio. Find out more at SiriusXM.com.
Couple of minutes left on the first edition in 2014 for the Kyle Flood Show. Rutgers, now a member of the Big Ten Conference, opening up the football season on Thursday night in Seattle, Washington, against Washington State. Another question on Twitter, Coach, coming in from William Stoll. He is at Rutgers95. Hey, Coach, can you talk about the diversity of college majors on the football team? Not only can they play ball, but they're smart as well.
I couldn't agree more, and we're really proud of the academic success we've had within our program, a 2.96 cumulative GPA, a number of players on the all-academic teams in the conferences we've played in, and we don't expect that to change going forward into the Big Ten. And And on our football team, we've got engineering majors, we've got business majors, we've got education majors, criminal justice, labor studies, an entire assortment. I was just sitting with a young man in recruiting the other day, and he was talking to me about wanting to be an engineering major. And you talk about guys in our program like Nick Libinati, like Brandon Rankart, former engineering majors that are working in that field now. And the young man said something interesting. He said, Coach, you're the first football coach that I spoke to that I told I wanted to be an engineering major. And he told me you actually had engineering majors in your program. And that made me feel really good because, again, if you want to do it academically at Rutgers, you can do it. And not only can you have a great academic career, you can have a great football career while you do it. And there's really nothing that you can't do.
And to add to that, the academic success, the system put into place, I believe, is absolutely perfect with the tutoring sessions, the amount of study hall hours. Everything is provided for you. If you fail here, then it's just you didn't want to try. You gave up. It's just beautiful. I remember going through it myself.
Yeah, Jenna Beverly, who heads our academic support team for football, does a tremendous job, and she's got a great staff that work under her. And on a day in and day out basis, our players are given everything they need to be successful.
We have another question from a gentleman here in attendance. Sir, what's your name? Where are you from?
Matt from Pennington, New Jersey.
How are you, Matt?
Really excited for the season, Coach. Glad to be here again and really excited for 2014. Question is regarding the roster and the number of young players that we have. I know we have a lot of freshmen, redshirt freshmen, and sophomores. How do you and the staff go about evaluating when, players at these grades who don't have game experience are ready to play? And the second part to that is once it's identified that they really are ready to receive some significant game action, how do you go about preparing them for that initial game action that they're going to see?
To answer the first part of your question, players play when they earn the opportunity and earn the right to play. And I say this in recruiting, and I say it in the team meetings. What we do is non-intramurals. Everybody doesn't get a turn. If you want to play on game day, you have to earn the right to do that in spring practice, in training camp, and then as we go into the game weeks. And then once they've earned the right to do it, then it's our job as coaches to make sure we get them ready and put them in a position to be successful.
Thanks, Coach. Good luck.
Thank you.
Well, we got about a little less than a minute left, so I'm not going to ask you for the keys. I think we could go back to last year and replay some of those. But just in terms of your personal excitement level, we were talking the other day to a lot of people. We can't believe we're here already. For you, this had to be a long off season, and now we're here.
Once we get to August, it goes so quick. And I know Eric would give you the player perspective, and training camp seems like it's forever. But for coaches, we've got so much to do and so much to get in. If you don't get it in training camp, you're not getting it in. So you got to get all the foundation built in training camp. So this is really this last month has really flown by. But as a program, we couldn't be more excited. I said this from the very beginning, and I won't stop saying it. First impressions in life matter. And Thursday night, we get to run on that field in Seattle as a representative of the Big Ten Conference for the first time, and it matters.
And it's going to be terrific. We can't wait. Coach, great start. Can't wait for next week.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Look forward to it.
We're going to have our show each and every Wednesday night live here at Brother Jimmy's in downtown New Brunswick. 10:05 kickoff, Fox Sports 1, 9:70 a.m., 14:50 a.m., and on ScarletKnights.com, you'll hear Eric on the pregame, halftime, and postgame, along with Mark Malusis, myself, Fooch, and Ray with the call. We'll see you Thursday night as Rutgers opens up the new season at Washington State. This has been the Kyle Flood Show.
You've been listening to the Kyle Flood Show, live from Brother Jimmy's on Easton Avenue in New Brunswick. The Kyle Flood Show has been brought to you by AT&T, mobilizing your world. Pepsi, live for now. UPS, to learn how UPS can put the power of logistics to work for you, visit thenewlogistics.com. The executive producer of the Rutgers IMG Sports Network is Ben Sutton. Associate producers Joe Potter, Chris Ferris, and John Willie. Network manager Brad Law. I'm staff announcer Carl Shannon. Special thanks to Rutgers Athletic Director Julie Herman, along with the staff and management of flagship station 1450 Talk Radio WCTC, the voice of Central Jersey. The Kyle Flood Show is an exclusive presentation of IMG.